the transfer portal. Let's talk about that and the craziness that it is.
Yeah.
LSU picks up a quarterback from Mississippi State, Michael Van Buren.
Yeah.
How about this one? Kevin Coleman Jr. on his fourth school in 4 years, going to Missouri. I
So
will say,
crazy.
all right, on this one, every time he has gone to,
Taking a step up, right?
yeah, I mean, Louisville, Mississippi State is, I don't know that that's a mass, I know it's SEC, but that's, I don't know. There was a coaching change there, though, so like
Yeah.
things maybe make sense. But he has taken a step up each time. But
Yeah.
still, 4 in 4 years is a little bit crazy. Like, can we just call it what it is?
You know the saying, like, it's not you, it's me. That may fit right here. It's not
Yeah.
you, it's him. Because I don't know. Kids these days are built differently. I don't understand the concept. I wouldn't even want to move 4 times. Like I always tell my husband Eric, if we're ever moving again, you are paying someone to pack up this entire house. I am not lifting a finger. We'll probably be in this house till I die because I made that statement. But like, could you imagine just moving 4 times? And now you're about to go from Mississippi to Missouri. Like, that's not an easy move.
Yeah, and neither one of those places, sorry for any Mississippi State or, Missouri fans. Louisville's cool.
Starkville,
Yeah, like this, I don't know. Missouri, all
I
of
have
it,
no
right?
interest to live anywhere in the state of Mississippi, and probably not anywhere in the state of Missouri either. Although I want to visit the Ozarks at one point.
The bag has probably gotten bigger each time, if
Probably.
we're being honest. So that probably helps the move. How about this one? Bama quarterback Dylan Longren considering UGA. This isn't as big of a rivalry, I think, as maybe the one that you experienced. We talked about on the last episode with ETN, and one we'll get to later. But the Bama to UGA flip is always interesting to me.
The in-conference flips are just bizarre to me. I can wrap my head around moving up conferences. You're going from the Sun Belt to the ACC or the SEC or whatever. I can wrap my head around that. I can even wrap my head around Big 12 to SEC. It is hard for me to understand how somebody could go from Bama to Georgia, or like we saw Florida to Georgia, or some of these. I mean, we've got Oklahoma to Auburn. I don't know. Like I said, these kids are built differently. This is not something that my generation would have ever let happen, but I don't know. They're going to play each other at least once, probably more, basically every single year. I don't know. Kids,
Auburn gets Jackson Arnold from Oklahoma.
That's a great pickup for them, I think.
Yeah, I think that helps them a ton. Interestingly enough, Oklahoma beat Auburn earlier this year, but I don't think Jackson Arnold was playing in that game. I think he had gotten benched, and they kind of did the quarterback shuffle thing there at Oklahoma. Eric Singleton Jr., a wide receiver from Georgia Tech, he's probably one of the best wide receivers in the country. Auburn or Ole Miss, it seems like, certainly programs that are willing to pay up.
But also I think there's more of an opportunity for the spotlight. I don't like Georgia Tech had a great season, but I think Georgia Tech was probably pretty close to their ceiling this year, and especially in terms of attention and spotlight. I think that it's gonna be easier, to be on that stage if you play for Auburn or you play for Ole Miss. The odds that Georgia Tech are making the playoffs are probably pretty small. So couple bigger playing opportunities with bigger bags, and it definitely makes sense.
Yeah. And I think you have 2 coaches. I mean, Brent Key at Georgia Tech. I mean, I think they could be an okay, but like they can be an 8-9 win.
I don't think Brent Key's there that much longer. If I had to guess, I think he's going to be one of the hot names, for
see that. Yeah.
searches the next
But even if you're just thinking next year, like they like to run the ball, they're not a super pass heavy team, and you're going to
conservative. You think of Georgia Tech generally, you think of a conservative team. If you're a wide receiver, you go to Ole Miss where they're going to throw 87 billion, yards a game, or same thing Auburn. I mean, that's got to be appealing, right? You're wanting film for the NFL.
Ole Miss seems to love this name, Princewell Umanmielen, Nebraska edge commits there. Their second Umanmielen in as many years.
We figure, are they related? Do we just both have this insanely long last name? What is going on here?
Yeah, I don't know.
The first name is even similar. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Barry Brown at LSU, always super hot in the portal. They pick up, Barry Brown had the kick return against Florida.
And they got Dane Keys in the transfer portal too, right?
Yeah. Which looks like he could be headed to Ole Miss. Obviously, Kentucky losing a couple of wide receivers. I don't know what they'll look like next year. Auburn gets Malik Murphy. I'm sure he'll start for them.
Yeah.
Malik Murphy, I think, was kind of pushed out so that they could get the Tulane quarterback.
Yeah.
And so I think Auburn upgraded it I'm sorry. I think, yeah, Auburn upgraded there
Hmm.
with the quarterback pickup as well. And then the last one we'll talk about real quick, and then we'll just talk about the portal in general. LSU gets Jack Pyburn,
Yeah.
Florida edge, who was a pretty productive player for Florida. It sounds like Florida may or may not have wanted to, dance with some negotiation type stuff, but LSU is certainly loaded up more. And another, certainly not carrying the weight of somebody going to Florida State or Georgia, but another rival.
Yeah.
Although I will say, Florida is like the school that I think has like 17 rivalries on their schedule. So like,
Right.
if they're going to go in the SEC, like Florida is everyone's rival. It feels like, right? Or Florida sees everything as a big rivalry.
I mean, I think that Florida gets pretty much everybody they play his best shot. But I would, as a Florida fan, I think that there are a handful we consider. LSU is absolutely one of them. And that rivalry kind of intensified. We had a game move because of the hurricane, and there just were some snippiness back and forth between athletic directors that kind of continue to fuel the fire. But I've always considered LSU a rival. I think Tennessee, I think Florida State, I think Georgia. I mean, those would probably be what I consider Florida's rivals. But yeah, I mean, I think this is interesting for a couple of reasons. One, because we don't know what the real story is here. We don't know. I mean, the people that reported what he supposedly asked for are generally people whose word I value and I take as, speaking from fact. But it also, seems like a big ask for somebody who was a really good role player this year, but I think is not necessarily the star of the defense. I think he really came on strong the end of the year. And I think the fact that Napier could trust him, he was a Gator for life. You weren't worried about him getting in any kind of trouble. Any of that stuff was definitely add value for him. It's just, I don't know. It's weird. Napier came out and said all that wonderful stuff about him. And, then we get reports that like, okay, Florida's not off the table. I know Corey Raymond is at LSU, who didn't directly coach Pyburn, but, on the defensive side of the ball, could have had a relationship with him. I don't know. And then, TJ, one of the things you and I have talked about is that there were all these reports that Florida was not going to be, outbid essentially for players in the portal or in high school. And I don't know who made that statement and put that rumor out there, but I don't know that there's a single thing we can point to in high school recruiting or transfer portal recruiting so far that would back up that statement, right? That sounds kind of like just a nameless, faceless rumor that got floated out there in hopes that it would make the fans happy, because I don't know that we have any evidence of that being the case. I'm not sitting here saying we should pay him if he was asking $45,000 a month or whatever. And I also don't agree with guaranteeing playing time for anybody. I think you earn all of it and your play on the field dictates whether or not you get more, but I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah. Or you could just say that anybody that Florida's missed on with that reporting, like they just haven't really wanted. That's the easy spin for that, right? If we
Yeah,
missed on them,
I mean,
then
I
we didn't pay
guess
them.
if the number wasn't ridiculous, I think it's weird that Florida gets outbid by LSU. If the number is ridiculous, then you know what? Go get your bag, because this is not somebody who's projected to go super high in the NFL draft. I would be surprised, and listen, I hope it happens, but I'd be surprised if he had some long NFL career. So I get the concept of strike while the iron is hot, right? And if that's not Florida, maybe it's somewhere else. But at some point, all of these schools have limits. So looking at Florida State and the people that they're signing, and everybody that's watching right now, we really appreciate it. Peek Inside the SEC has only been around for a couple of weeks here. This is our second live show, but TJ and I love hanging out and talking trash and talking about the best conference in all of college football. So make sure that you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of our updates and video releases as they come out. There's going to be so much college football to talk about in the next couple of weeks. What their roster currently is, if I find it hard to believe they have an extra $45,000 a month lying around for Jack Pyburn, but I don't know.
I don't know. I think so. I don't think, as far as the playing time and some of the other requests that were reported for him specifically, I don't know that that's tough, right? Like it's tough to guarantee that. I don't know that $500,000 though for a starting defensive end in the SEC is outrageous. But so I don't think the number itself is outrageous. Just in my, like I'm not in NIL negotiations,
Is
but
his
like
play warranted though? I mean, he had 2 sacks this season.
I think when these kids are asking for money, it's a mix. It's just like coaches, right? It's a mix of what they've done and a mix of what you project them to do.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I think if his thought is, hey, I played really well at the end of last season. If I'm going to start for you as starting defensive end in a top 15 program of all time, a top program of
Yeah.
all time in the SEC, I deserve
Yeah.
$500,000, or I think
Yeah.
540 is how it worked out. But um, so I don't think that number. Again, I don't think that ask is ridiculous. I think the ask that's kind of ridiculous, if all of this is true,
If
again,
it's true.
is
Right.
is the guaranteed playing
Yeah.
time, the guaranteed starting spot, like all those things.
Yeah,
And I don't know that he has that at LSU either.
yeah, Pyron put out, something on social media this week where it was like a picture of a private plane, and it said something about, I don't know, basically he was disputing the playing time, uh, request or whatever, like basically making it seem like that part didn't happen. Didn't dispute all the rest of it. So,
Okay.
I don't know. He hasn't really spoken on it. Napier, everything he has said had been glowing about Pyburn. I go back and forth like, man, get your bag. But I also would love for people to be loyal to the schools that they say they grew up, bleeding for. And I think that he probably was going to get a big renegotiation from what he got paid last year. And but I don't know. I heard a really interesting thing today, and I don't know if this is something you've ever heard, TJ, but I heard one of the newest kind of trends in college football right now is that basically agents are picking a name, let's say Jack Pyburn, and they're calling around to programs and they're saying, hey, if I can get Pyburn to transfer to your school, what would it be worth to you?
Yeah.
And, kind of crowdsourcing, finding out what that number is, and then going to the player and saying, hey, if you're willing to jump in the transfer portal, I can promise you'll get X number, per month. And I thought that was really interesting, totally shady, but that does make me wonder if maybe that's where some of these kids are grabbing some of these numbers from too.
Yeah, I think so. I think that definitely happens. And I think like there are agents that are doing it on behalf of the kid. Like a kid
Hmm.
wants to know what's out there, or a kid's
Yeah, what their
team or
value
family
is.
wants to know what's out there. And then I think there are some agents that just do it proactively. Like,
Hmm.
you know, in no way, like I'm not trying to start any rumors and I'm not trying to, but like I think he is fully locked in. But if you don't think that like whoever Lagway's agent wasn't at least listening to insane offers from other
Yeah.
programs, I'm not saying DJ would ever consider it. I am trying to preface it so much before somebody starts like
Right.
TJ
There
said
are
this
no
was happening.
rumors here. He is
But
a
like if
Gator
you're
guy.
his agent, you're doing him a disservice because
Yeah.
let me tell you something. If Ohio State was going to offer him $10 million, like he should pack his stuff tomorrow and go and take 10 million. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm throwing a ridiculous number out there, but like I'm telling you, all of these kids' agents are at least listening to the number.
Yeah.
And now he might take that number back, and the kid might say like, "No way, I'm locked in. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
No." But I mean, the agents are all listening because they get a cut of it. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, if you're, like they don't have any loyalty to these schools. They don't care who plays where or whatever. They just want the biggest. Same reason you or I would want money, right? Like,
Right. They
we
want the
we want
biggest
what's best for us.
sponsorship.
I want to ask you about Florida in a second in the portal, but Ole Miss, LSU, both making big splashes already. LSU has the number one portal class again
Mhm.
right now, and it's early, right? Like it's only been 8 days that the portal's been open. But if you had to pick, like I'm going with LSU is going to have
Yeah.
the top SEC portal class. Do you want to go? You want to take a wild card? Do you want to take
I
land
mean,
or
I
somebody
think
else?
it's LSU at the moment. I do think that can change, but for the portal, it seems to be like essentially the exact opposite of high school recruiting, right? Like you want to strike immediately and early, whereas high school recruiting, you want to be that last person they're on the phone call with. You want to be the last official visit. You want to be the last eye contact they make before they walk on that stage and pick a hat. All of those things. Whereas with transfer portal recruiting, you want to be the first official visit. And then if you let them leave your campus without a commitment, probably not a great sign for you. And I think LSU has done such a great job of getting the people that they want in the building immediately, like the second visits were allowed to happen, and getting those commits from those guys. And speediness is where it's at in the portal.
So that leads perfectly into this. What are your thoughts on Florida's first week Just,
You
it's
know,
been a little slow. Like, were you expecting more? Do you think they're just kind of slow playing some stuff, trying to figure things out, or what are
I
your
mean,
thoughts on
I
that?
think what we've seen the last couple of years from Coach Napier appears to be what we're seeing right now, which is they take a slow and methodical approach to everything. And I think that personally, I would have loved if we moved a little bit faster. So far, we've got a punter coming from Michigan, which I asked Eric about him. He's like, I haven't watched anything about him, but I saw that he was like eighth or ninth in the Big Ten. So, like, I don't know if that's overly promising there. But Florida's in a situation where they're losing a senior punter, and you want some options here. And your options can either be a veteran guy that you can send out there and trust in SEC situations, or you've got a new freshman coming in who is a really highly rated guy who you're going to see if that learning curve is there and he can immediately start. As a punter and a kicker, as a coach, your dream is that they start for you for 4 years. You get to save some scholarships, you get consistency on special teams. Like, my husband played for 4 years. Then after him, Chaz Henry for 4 years. You can go down the line. If you're doing it right, you get your punter for 4 years. So does this guy come to Florida and not play? Potentially, because we have a great freshman coming in. But because it's hard to trust 18-year-old freshmen, it's not a bad backup plan. I think it's weird that it was, the first priority at this moment. And then, Florida's missed on a couple wide receivers. There's a lot of guys in this portal that would have been great to make a splash with, right? Florida needs one or two veteran wide receivers to jump on board. And I trust Florida's evaluations at wide receiver. So I'm not nervous, because I think even if we wait, you think about the guys that Florida has landed on the last 2 years in the portal class that have been incredibly successful. And none of those are guys that, signed on the day the portal opened or whatever. So I think we'll be fine there, but I would love to see some urgency.
Yeah. No, I get that. There will be another crop. There will be guys that jump in the portal due to the playoff.
Sure.
That
They're
said,
all probably telling themselves we're just waiting to get
it
players.
does make you feel better to say those things. And my fan base is doing the same exact thing. And there are a lot of fan bases all over the country doing the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And I would tell you, most of them, that most of the teams in the playoff pay a lot of money and have a lot of success. And so why are they picking your school, not Florida specifically, just everyone? How many kids, and there will be some, how many difference makers are leaving playoff teams to go to non-playoff
And that's
teams?
the thing, is that the guys that are left that will be jumping will probably not be anybody that's a star in the playoffs. So they're going to be somebody who's warming that bench, and you're going to have to be making a better eval, than the team that they currently play for, is what you're going to be telling yourself if you want to sign them. But it's going to be fun to watch. I'm interested to see how Florida does. There's a long off season here with this windows. We'll see what we got here.